welcome. Today, we're going to break down a really smart new way to handle cyber threats. The ones that seem to pop up out of thin air. It's called the Silverthorn method, and it's all about how to handle information risk when the world just won't stand still. So let's get into it.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll get a handle on the problem itself, these things called emergent threats. Then we'll introduce the Silverthorn method and walk through its three main phases: how you set your course, how you scan the battlefield, and finally, how you act and adapt.
This really gets to the heart of the problem for just about every organization out there. The threats we face aren't just the ones we know about anymore. They're the ones we haven't even dreamed up yet. So seriously, how do you get ready for something you can't see? To figure that out, we first have to wrap our heads around the new digital world we live in. It's kind of chaotic, it's definitely unpredictable, and it demands a completely different way of thinking.
So what in the world is an emergent threat? Well, think of it like a brand new kind of opponent, one who shows up with a playbook nobody's ever seen before. A perfect and frankly scary example is AI-powered phishing attacks. We're talking about AI crafting fake emails that are so good, so personalized, that it's almost impossible for a human to tell they're fake. That's an emergent threat.
And that's the real issue, isn't it? Your firewalls, your antivirus software, all that stuff was built to fight the battles of yesterday. But when you're up against these new, shape-shifting threats, those old defenses are kind of like bringing a sword to a laser fight. They're just not going to cut it.
Okay, so that's the problem. And this is where the Silverthorn method comes in. It was built from the ground up to tackle this exact issue, giving us a real, structured way to operate in this new reality.
So instead of just waiting around to get hit and then scrambling to react, the Silverthorn method is all about getting ahead of the game. It's a proactive system. It helps you find, assess, and handle risks before they blow up into a full-on crisis, even when everything around you is constantly changing. And the whole method is broken down into three pretty straightforward phases, which makes it much easier to remember. First, you set your course. Second, you scan the battlefield. And third, you act and adapt. Let's dig into what each of those actually means.
All right, phase one, set your course. Before you can even think about fighting a battle, you have to know exactly what you're protecting, and maybe, more importantly, what you're willing to risk. This is all about strategy.
And the cornerstone of this whole phase is something called risk appetite. And no, it's not some super technical term, it's a business one. It's all about asking, how much risk are we willing to take on to get where we want to go? For instance, a brand new tech startup, they might have a huge risk appetite, but a hospital, theirs is going to be incredibly low. Getting this one thing right guides every security decision you make after that. And look, figuring this out isn't just a one-and-done meeting. It takes real work. You've got to educate your leadership, make sure everyone knows who's responsible for what, and set goals that are actually achievable. Honestly, one of the best things you can do here is run what-if scenarios. It makes all this abstract talk about risk feel very, very real and helps everyone get on the same page about what's truly at stake. Okay, so you've set your course, your strategy is locked in, now it's time for phase two, scan the battlefield. You have your plan, now you need intel. You've got to look beyond your own four walls and see what's actually coming over the horizon. I absolutely love this quote because it just nails the whole point of this phase. You're not trying to be a psychic. The goal isn't to predict, we're going to be attacked on Tuesday at 3 p.m. It's to see a trend. Hey, attackers are starting to use this new technique, so we can prepare for it. It's all about being prepared, not about predicting the future. So how do you actually do that? You do it with something called horizon scanning. Think of this as your company's own personal lookout tower. You are constantly and systematically searching for what the source material calls weak signals, those tiny little signs of change that could be hinting at a much bigger storm brewing. This is where you gather the intelligence that informs everything else. Now, as you're scanning that horizon, you'll start building out threat profiles. Basically, this is your Know Your Enemy file. Who are they? What makes them tick? What kind of tools do they have? And this isn't just trivia. This profile feeds directly back into those what-if exercises we talked about, which makes your planning way more effective and realistic.
Now, it's not all about looking out there, right? While you're looking out for threats, you also have to look in the mirror and identify your own vulnerabilities. These are the chinks in your armor. We're talking about the simple stuff like unpatched software or really weak passwords, basically all the doors you've accidentally left unlocked.
Here's a super simple way to keep it straight. A threat is external. It's what they can do. A vulnerability is internal. It's the opening you've left for them. See, an attacker could have the most sophisticated tools on the planet. But if you don't have a weakness for them to exploit, they've got no way in. And that all leads us here, to the final and maybe most important phase: act and adapt. You've got your strategy. You've got your intelligence. Now it's time to put all that insight into motion and build a system that's always improving. This part really boils down to 3 steps. First, you look at all the risks you found and you prioritize them. You can't fix everything at once, so what's most important? Second, you develop real strategies to deal with them, actual plans to patch those weaknesses or counter those threats. And third, and this is the absolute key, you monitor and review constantly. The world is changing, the threats are changing, so your defense has to be changing too. And that right there, that's the whole point. The Silverthorn method isn't about getting to some imaginary finish line called perfect security, because that just doesn't exist. The real goal is to build an organization that is resilient, one that is always watching, always learning, and is always adapting to be stronger tomorrow than it is today. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. In a world where the dangers are always shifting and changing, a defense that stands still is a defense that's already lost. The risks you're up against are evolving every single day. The only real question is your defense?